Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Tactical Baby Gear Podcast. In this episode, we sit down and talk with Aaron Hale. Aaron is a wounded veteran, incredible human being. We talk about his military career, how he went from the Navy as a cook into the Army as an E.O.D tech, then his unfortunate accident where he got blown up. He is now deaf and blind. He's a father. He's got 3 kids. He just had twins. So we talk about all of his life experiences, his outlook on life. This guy's got an incredible amount of positivity for the things that have happened to him. So for any of you out there think you have something to complain about, you're wrong. You've got nothing to complain about. There's a lot to learn from Aaron. It's an incredible story. He's an incredible father. I really hope you guys pay attention to this. Whatever you're doing today while you're watching or listening to this, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Aaron, what's up, man? How are you?
You're doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad we connected. For those of you listening, Aaron was a customer first, I think, right? You were a customer. You guys posted a picture. We reposted it. Everyone loved it. You guys reached out to us and said, hey, we'd love to be on the podcast. And we talked more with you guys, and we were like, we have got to help this guy tell his story. So here you are on the podcast. This could go any direction. Aaron, I'll let you introduce yourself. Why don't you tell these guys a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you're doing, where you've been, what's going on?
Sure. Of course, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm retired military. I started, I enlisted in the military in 99, and I joined the Navy as a cook. And it was funny because my entire life up till then, up until a month before I enlisted, I absolutely knew I was never going to be in the military. But I went to college. I gained my freshman 50, and then never went to class. So I realized after about 3 semesters that I needed a change. It was kind of a mutual thing. I didn't want to go back to school. The school didn't really want me back. So I burnt up too much tuition money and had to figure out what I was going to do. I needed a direction. I needed discipline. I needed a goal. I didn't really have a whole lot of ambition. I loved what I was. I loved life. I grew up with a loving family, and I just didn't know what I was going to do. No direction. So to earn some new tuition money and find direction, I decided I'd join the Navy. And I've always loved cooking. I've been cooking since I could reach over the counter. I remember in 3rd grade, I'd make a PB&J for my kid brother and a turkey and Swiss for my kid sister, and then I'd make this like triple decker ham, turkey, bologna, Swiss cheddar monstrosity that could barely close the my 18 lunchbox on. But yeah,
You're in the Navy.
Yeah, joined the Navy. Got to my first duty station was in shore duty in Naples, Italy, and then my next duty station 2 years later was just 45 minutes away on the command ship, the flagship for the commander of the U.S. 6th Fleet. So I was cooking for a 3-star admiral, and in my off time, actually both in my on-duty time and off-duty time, I was touring around the Mediterranean, touring around Europe, learning the culture and customs, and really loving life. I learned how to speak Italian and even knocked out a few college courses while I was in home port. But when both wars kicked off, they were in full swing, I realized that I was having a great time, but I needed to do something a little more direct, a little bit more towards the war effort. And yes, every job in the military is important, but it was just I felt a pull towards something different, and I wasn't quite there. I'd found discipline, I'd found some direction, and I picked up some new values along the way, and I always felt I was an honest, hardworking guy that just I needed direction. But then once I joined the military, I realized that I liked being in the military. It was a career calling. So instead of doing that 4 years and getting out and going to school, I decided I was going to stay. And I volunteered to go to Afghanistan, and I went from sailing around the Mediterranean with the admiral to cooking for 600-700 NATO troops in Farah, Afghanistan, in the desert. It was a huge switch, but it was awesome. I got to learn all the curse words in Farsi, and that's when I met some E.O.D technicians. E.O.D, Explosive Ordinance Disposal, is the military's bomb squad. And instantly, I'd realized that this was what I was meant to do. I had met these guys, and I started learning about what the job was. And I remember that the first interaction with them, they had this huge armored truck, and they pulled all their gear out and was doing maintenance on the truck and on their gear. And it was like a cool guy garage sale where they had bomb suits and robots and explosives and stuff.
That's where you would find me on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. So I go over there and I start talking to him, and I learned that it's a tight-knit community. It's a brotherhood. It's the technical aspect of it. It's a difficult school with a huge attrition rate. Close to that of like SEAL training, but far less physically demanding. It's a in labor and knowledge based intensive school for an entire year. But everything about it turned me on.
Yeah, so that was your first interaction with those guys when you saw them doing maintenance on the truck. You're like, this is awesome. I want to be part of this.
Oh, yeah.
And then they invited you out, right?
Right. They invited me out to do a controlled disposal. I was like, what are you talking about? They said, we've got some ordnance that we need to dispose of, so we're going to go blow it up. You want to come? I said, absolutely. So I loaded up in the truck. We went out to their range, which is basically just anywhere out in the desert that doesn't have people. And we found a good spot that was at the base of this mountain range. And they start piling up. They got these boxes on the outside of the armored truck, and they're pulling out rockets and bullets and landmines and stuff. And they're piling it up, and they put their C4 over top of it, and they come back to the truck, and they hand me this detonator, this like electronic transmitter. And they tell me, okay, hold this button down, say, give your fire in the hole. And I went, wait. You guys really say that? Yeah. Yeah, yell fire in the hole, and then push this button. So I do it. I press the button, red light comes on, I yell fire in the hole. And I feel so silly, and then I hit that button, the other button, and crack! This blast. The mushroom cloud goes up, and it's got there's this flat desert, and I see the blast wave coming out as a perfect circle, and it like a ghost passing through you, whoosh! And then the blast wave on the back end bounces off the mountains and comes back. So it's like kaboom, whoosh, like a freight
That's
train.
so crazy.
And I'm just standing there with my mouth wide open, probably full of dust, going, "Oh, I am so doing this." And yeah, at the time though, my rank and job in the Navy was undermanned. So they didn't want to let me go E.O.D. They didn't want to promote me. I was kind of stuck where I was. And when my contract when it came time to decide if I was going to re-enlist or not, I let my contract expire. And I went over to the Army recruiter, handed him the paperwork, and said, I want to go E.O.D. And they said, all right. There was no arguing there, and I started my training. It was awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
I began training to be a bomb technician. I was stationed in Watertown, New York, and soon thereafter, I was sent out to Iraq. And then about a year later, I was sent to Afghanistan. When on my third deployment, my second time to Afghanistan, I was by then team leader, and Army E.O.D. teams run in 3-man teams with one team leader. And how they do this is the highest ranking guy, the team leader, is the one that gets the bomb suit on. He's the one that goes down and works on it because you want the most knowledgeable, most experienced guy. Exactly. And it's usually the highest ranking guy. I remember it was about 8 months into my year-long rotation in Afghanistan when I was just back from my 2 weeks of R&R leave to the States. It was November, and I got to see my son turn 1. I got to spend Thanksgiving with my family. I even got to see my dad dress up like Mickey Mouse for his grandson's
for the
birthday.
That's awesome.
Knowing my dad is a once in a lifetime thing. So it was the best last entry in the photo album.
Right.
When I threw the luggage into my armored truck, my team picked me up from the airbase, and we were driving back to our area of operation. The convoy commander called back on the radio and said, E.O.D., there's something in the road up ahead. Can you check it out? No time like the present. Let's get to work. So they set up the security cordon. I set our safe area for the team, and then we sent the robot out. And the robot found what 99% of what we were finding in Afghanistan was just vegetable oil jugs full of homemade explosive connected to a cheap pressure plate and a 9-volt battery. So the robot separated the pressure plate from the rest of the IED, so it was rendered safe, but it couldn't get the jug out of the hard-packed dirt. And I wanted to get as much evidence as I could, so we could possibly catch these bomb makers, the bomb placers, and all that. So I jumped out and I started approaching the IED.
With your suit on, with the bomb suit on.
Yeah, no. The rule there was that every first approach on an unknown device would be with in the bomb suit or with a robot. So when I used the robot, I identified the hazard. I'd even rendered the hazard safe. There wasn't really a call for the bomb suit. In fact, it would have been considered a waste of time, not knowing what was about to happen. If I'd already rendered it safe, I don't need the bomb suit. But I had my standard body armor, helmet, full combat loadout, and I was carrying my metal detector and an evidence kit and a disposal kit. I had a block of C4 that I was going to put on this thing and dispose of it. But about 20 meters from the original ID, there was a secondary device that hadn't been discovered yet. And about the same time, my metal detector is trying to tell me something really important, is when I got the mule kick from hell. I got punted into the air, landed on my knees and elbows. The lights went completely out, and I was still conscious. and I thought that my helmet had been pushed over my face
Right.
from the
'Cause you
blast.
couldn't see anything.
And it was first it was funny because I thought, oh man, that's what being blown up feels like. But
Like that's the first thought through your head. Oh, so that's what it feels like to get blown up. Jeez.
but then of course the military training comes in. And first I got to assess the situation. What damage have I sustained? What's happening? Are we under some kind of ambush assault? These things go through your head
From training,
And
right?
First thing I did was systems check, wiggle the fingers and toes, knees and elbows, and all that. Found that I was more or less intact. I just had to fix my helmet. So I reach up and I go to grab my helmet to find that no helmet. And I thought, oh no, this is bad. The Army's going to want that back.
Oh my gosh.
Stuff that goes through your head, right? Missing a helmet, the blast had taken my helmet clean off, had taken my eye protection off, had blown out my right eye, was pretty gruesome.
Hanging.
Fused my eyelids together.
Ugh.
A piece of frag had gone right across the orbital ridge, and then across my right eye, and then across the bridge of my nose, and then gashed my left eye just enough that it could not be saved. And it also blew out both my eardrums, cracked my skull in multiple places in my sinuses. So I was leaking spinal fluid right out my nose.
Wow.
And a piece of the metal detector, some Bakelite, the plastic, hit my jaw and ran along my jawline and stopped a couple millimeters from my carotid artery. So
You are lucky to be alive, my man.
oh yeah, and I don't know how. I'm lucky enough that it only hit me in the head.
Yeah, you could have lost a leg. Like,
We Hale boys have hard heads, so it was the best place to hit me. But I was virtually untouched from my neck down. And I don't know how that was. What I stepped on that didn't take away my legs. But I realized that the next thing that's going to happen was my team was going to clear a safe path in the danger zone, the unknown area, for the medics to get to me, so they could extract me and get onto the medevac.
right.
And I thought, in my perfectly thinking state, that I should probably go to them so that they didn't have to enter the danger area, probably risking, stepping on more IEDs. But I did my first zombie walk. Where am I? And of course, I have no idea where the truck is anymore because I can't see.
You don't
So
know
I'm
what
just
direction,
walking around
yeah.
the battlefield like a zombie. When my team run in and they grabbed me and dragged me to the safe area by my truck, medic comes out, and in about 14 minutes, because like I said, we were just from the airbase, come out the medevac chopper, and I'm on my way back to the airbase, getting fixed up, patched up. Went to Landstuhl in Germany for 24 hours, and within 48 hours, I was at Walter Reed, and I was permanently and totally blind.
Yeah. So for those of you watching and or listening who can't see Aaron, and even on camera you wouldn't tell, so Aaron's blind and deaf, although you now have some hearing aid and you have regained some of your hearing. You can obviously hear me a little bit. We have to speak clearly, so you guys will hear me speaking much clearer to Aaron, but you have regained some of your hearing.
Well, both eardrums were blown out, and the right ear was far there was far more extensive damage than the left ear. But I could hear. I had to get tympanoplasties or eardrum replacement, but eventually my hearing was more or less restored, and it wasn't until almost 4 years later when I contracted bacterial meningitis and I was right back in the hospital. That the rest of my hearing was stolen.
It's crazy. There are so many things to unpack from Aaron's story. I mean, you guys can hear obviously how even just how positive he is, how much humor he has around it. My man stepped on an IED and got blown up. He's blind and deaf, and he's telling jokes about himself. Like, that takes a special kind of human. You are an extraordinary, you're very selfless, obviously. Like, I just got blown up. Oh, the Army wants their helmet back. Not, am I okay? I mean, come on. But
I was knocked senseless.
yeah.
They say, literally what happened was I had lost my eyesight. I lost my sense of hearing. The blast had actually severed, for a while, I'd lost my sense of smell, and that affected my sense of taste. And if anybody's counting, that's pretty much all I've got left is my sense of humor. So that's sharp as ever.
Right.
But holding on by a thread.
So that is kind of your story and what's happened to you and why you're kind of in the position you're in. But beyond that, you're a dad, so he just had twins recently. How old are the twins now?
Yeah. So I've, like I mentioned, my son, who's now just about to turn 9. And my wife and I just had identical twins in April, boys. So, yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Well, Alex has identical twin boys as well.
Yeah, that's what he said. It's hilarious because my wife and the rest of the family complain that they have a hard time telling them apart.
That was gonna be my joke. Yeah. I was like, do you have a hard time telling them apart? Because everyone asked me that. Like, you were making jokes about it earlier.
Yeah.
I have a hard time telling the salt and pepper shakers apart.
But Aaron's got jokes.
I actually found that I may have a slight advantage over the rest of the family when it comes to telling them apart, because my sense of touch has become maybe a little
more sensitive,
perhaps. Yeah, pay a little more attention. So when I'm picking the babies up, one of the boys is a little bit bigger. He's about a half a pound heavier. He's about half an inch longer.
Interesting.
He's just a bigger boy. So when I pick him up, I'm like, oh, this is Wyatt, or this one's Owen. But the funny thing is, of course, they're growing so fast. So
right.
I pick one up, and Wyatt's the bigger one. So I'll pick one up and go, oh, this one's Wyatt. And then I'll set them down. I'll pick up this one's Wyatt.
Yeah, because they're heavier every day, it seems like, right?
Yeah.
It's
every
crazy.
There's like just a bigger kid.
Yeah.
And I marvel at like 6 months now, these kids they're getting big. They're getting hard to carry in the car seats. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
Thank God for that baby carrier you have.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. But we did our first full family trip a few weeks ago. We went to Raleigh, North Carolina, and we were flying. And one is difficult enough to get a blind deaf guy through the checkpoints and security, but yeah, I had the tactical baby gear diaper bag on my back, and I had one of the babies strapped to my chest in the baby carrier. And it was awesome. Whichever baby, because we switch around, and we when we get to our seats, and diapers have to be changed and all that. And, whichever baby we put into my baby carrier would just pass out, and that was it. It was perfectly calm, and it was great, and kept hands free for bags and dragging a blind guy around the terminal. So yeah, it was a lifesaver. It worked out great.
That's awesome. That makes me so happy that it's working the way I planned it.
So
my wife is trying to figure out how we can get a second baby carrier so I can carry both the kids.
She wants you to do all the work.
One in back, one in front.
Man, you could probably do it.
How has I guess the standard things that most parents have to deal with, bottle feeding if you're not, nursing, changing diapers. How has that dynamic worked in your household?
Oh man, I thought diffusing bombs was scary. Try doing a poopy diaper without looking.
I was doing one this
Okay.
morning, and that's literally what I was thinking about. I was like, I've got so much respect. How many wipes does it take?
You see, I use my fingers like eyes, right? I just this is how I see. So I touched everything. By the way, if you find a blind guy at a buffet, just leave. You don't want that. Yeah. So doing the diapers, I'm changing to get the dirty diaper, and then I pulled out the baby wipes, and then my fingers are wet. So then I'm going to wipe the butt, and the butt is wet, and my fingers are wet, and I don't know what's baby wipe.
Oh, jeez.
What's the consistency, the viscosity of what's on my fingers? And so there have been some really the heinous messes.
You don't do any taste testing, do you?
That's not baby wipe. But yeah, it's sometimes frightening, but it's always been an adventure. And these kids it's so much fun being a daddy to these babies.
It is awesome.
Yeah,
and
they're so terrific.
speaking of adventures, there's some things that I want to harp on because you are incredible. But you take a lot of adventures. There's a lot of people in the world that are complaining about so many things, and here you have all these things working against you, and you still find a way to get out and take these adventures and go running marathons and go ice climbing and doing all the things that you do. It's just incredible. So I want to hear more about like your marathon running, the adventures you take. When I was with my injury and I was in the hospital bed at Walter Reed, of course those demons try to creep in. Like, why me? What if? I'm a highly trained expert explosives in this back country Taliban guy with no education, probably can't read, and with rudimentary a rudimentary bomb got to me. I was feeling down on myself, but between my military training, my upbringing, and the huge support of my family, they wouldn't let me feel sorry for myself, and I wouldn't either. So the first thing I did was I started to find out how was I going to be a dad? How was I going to be a soldier? Because I was still active duty. How was I going to live? How was I going to be a man without my eyes? So I started researching and typing in like the search on the internet, blind plus outdoors, blind plus running, blind plus whatever. And I found a few names kept popping up, like Eric Weinmeier is a blind man who's the only blind person who's ever climbed Mount Everest. And what I did is I sought him out, and I actually climbed a mountain in Peru with him, 18,000 foot peak in the Andes. And then I found out there was a guy, Lonnie Bedwell, who was the first blind person to kayak the entire Grand Canyon. Holy cow.
And so I found him, and I went kayaking with him.
That gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Good for you, man. It's so cool. What else have you done?
That's impressive.
And of course, it's hard to find a decent mountain to train on in Florida. To get prepared to
do those things.
I started running. I started putting like an expedition pack with like 100 pounds of weight on my back, and I would go to the tallest building I could find and just go up and down the stairs. And I would run, and I was feeling better. I was fitter than I'd ever been, even in the military, and I was feeling great. I was becoming a better me through the hard work, not just physical fitness, but it was finding new challenges. I signed up for 4 marathons in 4 months before I'd run my first.
Wow.
Because I was high on the mountain climbing, and I was on finding new challenges, and I was reaching farther beyond what I thought was possible before, and then I'd figure out a way to do it. And all of these things, I was 2 weeks from flying to Tanzania and climbing Kilimanjaro. And it was going to be my first of my 7 summits attempt. And when I contracted meningitis, and I was right back in the hospital, I was near death, and this time I was going to lose my hearing, and it was the doctor, as the bacteria or the heavy doses of antibiotics were slowly stealing my hearing. The doctor said, "You're going to be completely deaf," and I said, "What? No, really, what?" I thought about it for a moment. I said, "Wait a second. So, I'm never going to have to pretend to pay attention ever again." Okay, but then I had to figure out again. I was
Facing another adversity, something else, another challenge.
It was like I'd undergone this struggle, and I'd come out the other end. It was like, whew, hope I don't have to do that again. And then boom, lightning strikes twice. And there I am. And all of the technologies, talking, everything is audio based. My talking phone, talking computer, barcode scanner in the kitchen for all the pantry items. All obsolete because I was deaf now. And it was terrible. It was awful, isolating, terribly. It was a lonely place to be for months. Over half a year, I was in complete silence and complete darkness, and those demons tried to get back in again. But my girlfriend at the time, Michaela, my wife now, she was writing every letter of every word she had to convey to me, or anybody else had to convey to me, in the palm of my hand. I mean, that's an angel. I don't know what it is.
That's amazing.
And that was when, even and I lost my inner ear, the vestibular balance as well. I mean, it's almost as bad as the other things, but the running, I have a treadmill in the garage, and that's how I trained. And then I couldn't get back on it because it felt like somebody was trying to rip it out from under me, throw me off. I was using the trekking poles that I used in the mountains just to get to my mailbox and back, and that was an exhausting endeavor.
Wow.
It was brutal, and that's when I turned back to cooking as a sort of therapy. The holidays were coming. Thanksgiving was around the corner, and of course, my girlfriend, the wife, she just wouldn't let me feel sorry for myself. And we decided we were going to have a huge feast. We're going to invite the whole family. We're going to have friends. We invited a couple of the E.O.D students from the schoolhouse. We live down the road from the schoolhouse now. And sometimes the military members, they either want to save their precious leave days, vacation days, for the big ones like Christmas and New Year's and stuff like that. So some of the students stay at the school, but the school's closed down over Thanksgiving. So we invited a few of them over to have Thanksgiving with us. So I had a turkey in the smoker, one in the oven. I had the whole ham, a whole huge spread, and I was making desserts weeks in advance. Cakes and pies and cookies and fudge. Oh my gosh, so much fudge. I would make one batch, and then right after that was done, I'd make another one. I'd throw nuts and spices. I'd take go to my bar and talk a little booze in there. And this is great. And then this is gonna be awesome. And I was coming up with different recipes. And my wife said that she saw on my face something she hadn't seen in 6 months, and that was a smile.
Well, thankfully, you could still smell, you can still taste, you can make some food at that point.
Yeah, I could. By then, it'd been about 4 years since since the blast, and I'd regained some of my sense of smell, my sense of taste. But they're all connected. And you ever do that taste test where you blindfold yourself?
Yeah,
it's sometimes like that where I'll taste something and go, cinnamon, and my wife go nutmeg or something like that.
Right.
Allspice or something like that. But eventually, I was making all this fudge, and and as it turns out, it was more fudge than any family could eat in one sitting. So my wife was sneaking it out the front door to give away, and I say sneaking, like you got to be real stealthy around a blind deaf guy.
Well,
But she was giving them to neighbors, she was giving it away to friends, and people started coming back and saying, "Can we buy more of this? I got a baby shower or your birthday, and would like to buy some of this fudge." And my wife would say, "Oh no, we've got plenty." And I said, "I'm the capitalist in the family. Of course you may buy it,
Right.
But the truth is, my wife is a savvy, business owner, entrepreneur, and soon the fudge became a business. It went from therapy to and a hobby and a passion, and it became E.O.D. Confections, or this time it's Extraordinary Delights. And
Yeah.
it's taken off.
So that's his business. You guys started that in 2015, 2016, right?
Yep.
And if you guys are interested in some fudge, check out it's just fudge essentially, mostly chocolates and stuff.
That's where it started, but we've expanded to chocolate covered sea salt caramels. These awesome things called gophers, which are kind of like turtles. Pecan caramel covered popcorn tins, all sorts of stuff.
And that's
But
the website for that is eodfudge.com.
That's correct.
Yeah. It looks delicious. I'm 100% ordering some.
in
Anyways,
the office.
but back to some of those adversities and you staying positive. You said that through the military you had learned some new values and things like that. How has all of this kind of led up and translated into fatherhood, into being back around your oldest son, and then now having twins, and how you're dealing with that and raising? I mean, you're a stay-at-home dad. Your wife says you're the best stay-at-home dad in the world. She just told me so on Instagram earlier.
Well, in the military, one of the reasons we have one of the greatest military in the world in history isn't just because we throw a ton of money at it. It's because we've learned over 270 so odd years how to develop leaders, how to develop warriors, and one of them is to lead from the bottom up. Always teaching our subordinates how to take your job, and another aspect is don't be afraid of the hard work, because the hard work.
Amen.
What's that?
Amen.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of the struggle, because it's where working out grows your muscles. You need to get into the gym. You need to run to develop the endurance. You need to work out to grow those muscles. It's the struggle. It's the hard work that builds the character, and that strengthens the soul. So, and I've learned a lot of that through the military. They've instilled in me some dependence, like to truly believe in core values, not as just kind of catchphrases and great words to think about, but to really live by, to have principles that in any situation I can bounce them off my principles, and if they run parallel with my values, my principles, my standards, then I know I'm doing the right thing. If it doesn't jibe in some way, then I don't do it. And one of those things, when I was facing these adversities, and I would think, okay, what would my first sergeant say? If I was just sitting here feeling sorry for my situation, what would that look like if I were on the battlefield? All right, pick yourself up and carry on, because you're not just responsible for yourself. I'm a father. Where I was a soldier and I was responsible for my troops, I'm still a father. I'm responsible for my family. I'm responsible for my kids. I want to be that leader. I need to be there to develop them into good humans. And I need to be the example and not just survive, not just be some, poor guy that, had something bad to him. Now he's going to sit on the couch, feel sorry for himself, popping pills, just to make it through and wait for death. I'm gonna live. The struggle is there, and the struggle will build my character, and the struggle, dealing with my struggle will show my sons that, not to be afraid, to be accepting of those with disabilities. There's so many lessons here that I can teach my kids, and I want to be the hero to my kids, and I want to be the example, and that means that I have to keep looking for, not just dealing with my disability, but learning how to thrive with it.
You're not only are you a hero to your kids, but you're a hero to this country. We appreciate that.
It was an honor to serve, and I keep telling them all I need is a good spotter. I'll head back out. Give me a rifle and a spotter.
Jokes again. Yeah, there's just so many incredible lessons to just your story in general and how you approach life at this point and how you're dealing with all those things.
So you were sharing a story that I think a lot of the listeners would enjoy, talking about when you were trying to discipline your now oldest, and obviously with can you share that story? I just kind of want to tee it up for you about how you try to discipline him and he's hiding from you. So can you share that story?
God. Well, yeah, when he was a toddler, 2-3 years old, he didn't quite understand, but he was learning really fast that Dad couldn't see. I mean, at the time, I didn't even have prosthetics, so it wasn't hard to figure out. But when he got in trouble, when he'd do something, I would say, Cameron, come here. And instead of running or saying no or throwing a tantrum or something, he would melt against the wall. He would literally put his palms to the wall and back to the wall, and then he would suck in his breath and just hold it. And he knew he just became invisible to me. So I would kind of do the radar thing and try to find him, but I would just wait. And then a few moments later, I would hear, there you are. No, come here, you. But
that was so funny.
Eventually turned into just like a game of cat and mouse, and whatever it was, it wasn't that bad. And by the time I'd caught him, whatever it was had diffused itself. It was hard to. It's always hard to discipline my son because he's really easy to be a dad to.
Right.
But I found my favorite way to teach a lesson or to discipline is the same thing I learned in basic training. Physical fitness is a great attention getter. So we'll anytime he's done something that needs correction, we'll do wall sits, or we'll do
that's brutal.
And we'll do planks. Or I'll have him just hold 2 of his favorite books out in front of him or out to the side. And then we'll have a talk.
Uh-huh.
And at the same time, I'm doing the same thing. So I'll be sitting at the walls with him, and we'll just have a chat. Every once in a while, we'll get up, maybe we'll do some push-ups, then we'll go back to the wall. And I know I've got his attention because there's just, 1, he can't go anywhere. And 2, he really wants to learn the lesson so he can get it over with.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think I'm going to start using that. My girls are going to start.
I got to figure out how to get my twins.
Well, so far, whatever lessons, they sink in pretty well.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
How?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say how much of a help are your kids, especially your oldest kid, Cameron? How old is he? 8, 9?
Yeah. Yeah.
He
going on 9.
Obviously has a very good understanding of what you've been through and some of your challenges. Is he super helpful with some of the things that you need?
Yeah, he's like I said, he's a terrific kid, and he's great with his younger brothers. He's always asking to help out, hold one, feed one, and he loves helping out in the kitchen too. So every once in a while, because he is, even though we own a candy company, we live healthy. We'll have our treats now and then, and he is a sugar addict, so we got to be careful. So just this week, we made homemade Snickers bars.
Ooh.
And I could tell when he's trying to sneak things. He's sticking his finger in everything, but it's great. I love working with him. It's a great way for us to do something together, father son. And it was early on. He wasn't very adventurous with his food. Also, when I divorced his mom, he went to live with her for a while, and his eating habits weren't great. And I wanted to introduce him to new foods. He wouldn't touch like nuts or raisins or anything like that. And one day, I got an idea, and we're gonna try all sorts of things. And I pulled out bags of chocolate and nuts and all different types of nuts and raisins and dried cherries and things. And I know he's looking goofy at all the other things that's not chocolate. And I said, "Here, put out your hand." And I took like 2 morsels of milk chocolate, and then I put a cashew in there. So pop that whole thing in your mouth and eat it. So he did that. And he goes, "I like it." Of course you do. And then I did the same thing but with a pistachio, and popped it in his mouth. "What do you think?" "I like it." "Of course you do." And we did it with all the like different combinations, cashew and cherries and whatever. And then we made chocolate bars, and he liked the milk chocolate with the cashew, the first one I tried. And I'm talking to him like, this is like an adventure with your mouth. We can try all sorts of different flavor combinations. Who knows? And at the same time, he's making his chocolate bars. I'm making my own with dark chocolate and pecans and ancho chili powder. So it was a little like a spicy dark chocolate. And I said to him, "You know what? These flavor combinations, you could do all sorts of different things. What do you think about putting chocolate and chili powder together?" He goes, "Oh, that sounds awful." I'm like, "Yeah, it's probably pretty bad. Here, try this." He goes, "I like it." Of course you do.
That's awesome. Aaron, is there any other stories or anything else that you want to share with our audience while we have you here?
There's so many. Every day is either a lesson learned, or it's hilarious, or it's both. I don't know. I mean,
anything you want. Anything about your business, anything about the kids, anything about your experience, your accident. I don't know if you call it accident, but if there's anything else you want to let them know, nothing in particular.
Sure, pick something.
We could go anywhere. Let's tell these guys where they can find you. On Instagram is E.O.D Confections. You guys can find Aaron on Instagram. Obviously, his website is eodfudge.com. You can order all kinds of candies and fudge and good stuff there. I'm excited to try that. What else you got, Alex? Anything?
Well, I was going to say, I wanted to ask if you could leave one tidbit for a first-time parent.
Advice for a first-time parent?
Well, what's something you would like to instill in a first-time parent as they're welcoming, a child into the world? Anything through your life experiences that with kids and your military service and the like, what's something that you wish upon them or something you'd like to instill in them to remind them of
Well, everything is about perspective. It could be, one thing could be awful until maybe you look to the person next to you and find out that whatever you're going through pales in comparison. And one thing about perspective, I remember when I was with my friend Lonnie, and I was kayaking for the first time blind. My sighted guide, was out there. We were on flat water, And first he told me, you're going to get, I'm just trying to do the basics, paddling and all that. And he goes, okay, just follow my voice, on me, on me. And it sounded like I'm paddling towards him, and it sounds like he's doing laps around me, on me, on me. I'm like, hey, if you just hold still, I would find you. And he says, I am still. You're doing donuts. Oh, perspective. But he said, listen, before I'd even gotten comfortable right side up on top of the water, he said, you're going to get comfortable upside down underwater, because at some point you're going to have to be.
Right.
And it's too dangerous outside the boat, like doing a wet exit is what they call it, where you pop that skirt and you go for a swim. Instead, we got to learn how to roll. But the first lesson is get comfortable underwater. And it's such a great lesson for the rest of life, is that get comfortable being uncomfortable, because the more you are, the easier, more resilient you will be to change. So I learned how to get comfortable being uncomfortable, which seems like every day something's changing anyways. And that's all about perspective. I'm ready for the next challenge. I seek out the next challenge, and I'm ready for change and ready for growth.
That's great advice. Aaron, thank you for coming. Thank you for reaching out to us and coming onto the show. It means a lot to us. We appreciate you as a person, as a dad, as a hero to this country. We appreciate your service. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me. This was great. And thanks for that awesome gear. It's been a huge help.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Our pleasure.
Guys, thanks for listening. If you want to hear more from the podcast, make sure you subscribe on whichever platform you're listening on. And we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.